Chapter 71. Ancient Dragon Species? Zeke quickly turned around, Greyawag. A giant beast opened its maw wide and swallowed Zeke whole, crack. Zeke hurriedly dodged and drew Bahamut. He then pointed his sword at the giant beast, quack 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 quack. A huge vortex began to swirl around Zeke's sword, elemental sword, water sword, wave sword. A massive tsunami arose in the calm lake, quack 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 quack. The energy of the wave sword flew towards the giant beast, swirling in a vortex, ga-ah-wah-wah. Despite being underwater, the beast's roar echoed. Zeke adjusted his grip on the sword and charged towards the beast, wung. The surging aura blade cut through the beast's hard scales, slash. Unbeknownst to Zeke, the beast had never encountered an enemy who could pierce its scales. In the pain it felt for the first time, the beast glared at Zeke with bloodshot eyes and opened its maw. Then a huge splash erupted from its mouth, quack 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 quack. The immense water pressure pressed down on Zeke's body as if to tear him apart. Ugh. Zeke gritted his teeth to withstand the tremendous water pressure. It was too disadvantageous to fight like this. Then he remembered something, Hersian. Zeke immediately activated the Hersian he had taken from Kane Clank. The Hersian, which was in the form of a breastplate, unfolded and transformed into a full plate armor that enveloped Zeke's entire body. Wearing the armor, Zeke could feel the effect of the water pressure lessen, now able to move more freely. Zeke planted his feet on the lakebed, held up Bahamut, and gathered his energy, wung. Strangely, when he gathered his energy while wearing the Hersian, a much stronger power condensed at the tip of his sword. Powerful aura rampaged like a storm. Zeke pointed his sword at the beast, Dragon Slayer style, true dragon sword skill 8th stance. First dragon scale / a huge aura surged from Zeke's sword. The aura blade, surging over 10 meters, flashed and struck the charging beast, clank. The beast, directly hit by Zeke's dragon scale / momentarily stopped moving, and then the sword attack exploded belatedly, quack 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 quack. The beast screamed and roared in pain as its whole body was torn. Zeke didn't miss this opportunity. He regained his stance, wung. Energy gathered in his sword once again. A huge vortex swirled around Bahamut. Zeke aimed the tip of his sword at the beast's neck. He focused all his strength on the tip of the sword, Dragon Slayer style, true dragon sword skill 8th stance. Third dragon scale, thrust. A tremendous energy enveloped Zeke's sword and shot towards the beast like a powerful spear, quack 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 quack. The giant spear made of aura blade pierced right through the beast's body, thud. 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 The beast barely managed to twist its body and avoid a fatal blow, but the powerful energy tore through its scales and flesh. The beast finally faltered and retreated. Zeke, thinking he had to finish it here, chased after the beast, and as it tried to flee, he used the Dragon Claw skill from behind, /. The ferocious dragon claws tore through the beast's back. The beast writhed and screamed, but it didn't stop trying to escape. Zeke used gale force to quickly chase after the beast. As soon as he got close, he thrust his sword into the beast's neck, crack. Zeke, who had plunged his sword into the beast's neck with the power of gold, pushed down with force, sinking them both to the lakebed, thud. As the giant beast sank to the bottom, mud billowed upwards, obscuring the surroundings. Zeke used his Dragon Eyes skill to secure his vision and then used Dragon Fear to threaten the beast. A message appeared before Zeke's eyes. You have instilled fear in the ancient dragon species corrupted by tainted energy. Innate ability Dragon Domination activated. Would you like to subjugate the target dragon species? Zeke had previously subjugated the chimera created by the dark mage, Gyurub, and turned it into a summon. Can such a large beast be subjugated? The beast Guguk he had caught recently wasn't a dragon species, so he just devoured it with gluttony and obtained a skill. Zeke pondered whether it would be better to devour the beast with gluttony or subjugate it. I'll try subjugating it, and if it doesn't work, I'll just devour it with gluttony. Zeke responded to the message that appeared, saying he would do so, wung. Unlike with the chimera, a magic circle-like pattern appeared from Zeke's ether hall. A magic circle of the same pattern spread around the beast's body, crackle. Sparks flew from the magic circle and the beast screamed as if in pain, Kiawag. But surprisingly, the beast's appearance was changing little by little. What's this? Crack. Like hardened clay peeling off, the black energy that had been covering the beast's body fell away, whoosh. The beast, freed from the black energy, now had the appearance of a dragon species with a mystical aura, not a monstrous beast. As soon as the black energy completely disappeared, the magic circle began to shine, rumble. The light from the magic circle seeped into the dragon species. Then, a message appeared. The demonic energy that had corrupted the ancient dragon species has been purified and its former divinity has been restored. You have subjugated the ancient dragon species. Would you like to name the subjugated dragon species? A named dragon species can be summoned at any time by the authority user. Zeke looked at the ancient dragon species, now purified of demonic energy. It had been a monster just a moment ago, but now free from the demonic energy. It had a mystical appearance with blue scales that shone with 5 colors. After some thought, Zeke named the ancient dragon species Noel. Zeke named it after the lake, Noel. Noel, seemingly pleased with its name, raised its long neck and roared, roar. Unlike when it was a beast, it was a clear and mystical roar. You have acquired the divine beast Noel. The divine beast Noel can only be summoned in places with water. At the same time, information about Noel appeared. Noel information description. A divine beast with auspicious water energy innate ability, can control water. Special note, corrupted by demonic energy right before evolving into a holy beast, can evolve into a holy beast under certain conditions. It can evolve into a holy beast. However, the information didn't specify what the conditions were. Noel gracefully extended its head towards Zeke. It wasn't as openly affectionate as Gurub, but it seemed quite dignified. Is it telling me to get on its back? Zeke thought to himself, and as if reading his mind, Noel nodded. The summoned beast, subjugated to the master of authority, was connected by the soul, allowing communication through thoughts alone. Zeke climbed onto Noel's back. Then, Noel ascended to the surface of the lake at high speed. Splash. Noel cut through the water and emerged above the lake. Roar. The sun had risen, and the clear sunlight warmly illuminated the lake. Zeke rode Noel towards the shore. When they reached the shore, he stroked the scales on Noel's neck. I look forward to working with you, Noel. Whoosh. Noel let out a long cry and then returned to the lake. Unlike the Chimera Gurub, it seemed Noel would stay in this lake and be summoned when needed. As Zeke climbed onto the shore, Felix stared at him with his mouth agape. And master, what was that just now? Zeke said with an indifferent expression. It was the beast in the lake. The curse was lifted and it transformed like that. Yes? The curse was lifted. I don't know exactly. I'm hungry, so prepare something to eat, Felix. Felix was still bewildered, but he followed Zeke's instructions and built a fire to prepare food. Zeke sat at the campsite and examined the golden mask he had retrieved from the bottom of the lake. The engraving on the forehead is similar to the Holy Kingdom's insignia. Although the shape and form were different from the Holy Kingdom's insignia that Felix had, the basic format was the same. As Zeke fiddled with the mask, he recalled how the relic of Terrakan Draker had reacted to mana. He subtly channeled mana into the mask. Wong. Surprisingly, it reacted to mana this time as well. He channeled more mana into the mask. At the same time, a message appeared. You have acquired the mask of? Would you like to register as the user of the mask? A window similar to the one that appeared when he acquired Kane's Hersian popped up. This one also has question marks. According to Jelion, the Hersian that Kane had was made before the Golden Age. This mask could also have been made in a similar era. With various questions in mind, Zeke registered himself as the user of the mask. Then, more message windows popped up. You have been registered as the user of the mask. Would you like to activate the mask's function? Although the function of the mask wasn't explained and he didn't know what it was, Zeke decided to activate it. What is this? Is it like the Hersian? The moment Zeke chose to activate it, the mask suddenly began to emit light. What's this? The mask emitted a strong light, just like when he first found it at the bottom of the lake. At the same time, the mask unfolded and automatically wrapped itself around Zeke's face. What is this? Then another message window appeared, activating the function of the mask of? Linking with the intermediate administrator system and functions, confirming class. Immortal activating skill purification combines with the immortal class to transform into the unique class exclusive skill. Grand purification function linked with the user's skill area of effect buff, confirming the range of grand purification, conducting purification of demonic energy that has corrupted the land. Zeke was startled to see the messages that appeared. Unique class exclusive skill. Wong. An enormous golden light surged from Zeke, who was wearing the mask. Gasp. Felix, who was preparing the meal, was startled to see Zeke wearing the golden mask bathed in golden light, and at that moment, the golden light emanating from Zeke's body began to spread out like waves in all directions, whoosh. The first thing the golden light from Zeke's body touched was the thick thorny vines. The black dust that had clung to them fell away, and the thorny vines began to transform into beautiful rose vines. Oh my God. Not only Felix but also Zeke stared blankly at the sight as the golden waves slowly spread. The area where the thorny vines had been turned into a rose garden, and the grotesquely twisted trees also transformed into beautiful ornamental trees, whoosh. The black lake water became clear, and the barren land sprouted fresh green shoots, turning into vibrant land full of life. The spreading golden waves reached the castle. At the same time, a new message window appeared, connecting to the management system of changing the mode of emergency defense mode deactivated rumble. The castle was literally transforming. The walls moved, the towers that made up the castle changed positions, and the crouched castle completely unfolded, transforming into a grand and elegant appearance unlike before. Master, the sea castle. Felix, seeing the gloomy ghost castle transform into a beautiful castle with a rose garden, was speechless with disbelief. The golden waves didn't stop there but spread further, transforming the entire hill where the castle stood. The desolate hill turned into a garden full of roses and beautiful trees, purification complete, clank. The golden mask detached from Zeke's face and returned to its original form. Zeke stared at the golden mask in wonder. What in the world is this? It was then thud. Thud, thud, thud. Something came running at a tremendous speed. People on horseback were galloping towards Zeke. Felix, flustered, drew his sword and took a defensive stance, but Zeke stopped Felix. Felix, calm down, they're not enemies. Whoosh. The riders on the large horses dismounted and walked towards Zeke and Felix. They were large and imposing, all dressed in old aristocratic attire. Surprisingly, despite their large builds, they were all old men with white hair. One of them approached Zeke and shouted, "The prophecy has been fulfilled. The child with black eyes has restored the clan to its original state." The other elders also echoed his words. The child with black eyes? The savior of the clan. Felix looked at the elders who suddenly appeared and said to Zeke, "Master, who are these people?" Zeke replied to Felix, "Didn't we meet and greet them earlier?" Felix asked back in surprise, "Yes? Are they those ghosts from before?" They weren't ghosts, but they were deeply ill due to the curse. Now that the curse is lifted, they've returned to their original forms. The elder at the forefront approached Zeke and knelt on one knee. At the same time, the other elders also knelt. Rufus Agamemnon, head of the Agamemnon clan, expresses his gratitude to the savior of the clan. "We express our gratitude." The other elders also expressed their gratitude in loud voices. After a moment, Rufus Agamemnon rose from his position and approached Zeke. He placed his large hand on Zeke's shoulder and said, "Zeke Draker, my grandson with black eyes, you have lifted the curse on the family and saved us." Chapter 72. Grandfather. Zeke tightly grasped Rufus's remaining hand. Rufus then embraced Zeke. "I finally get to hold you." Because of the curse, Rufus had suppressed his emotions and couldn't properly hug Zeke even when they first met for fear of harming him. The other elders of Agamemnon also approached and hugged Zeke. They were all so large that Zeke was soon buried among them. But as everyone looked at Zeke with eyes full of affection, he didn't feel the slightest discomfort. Rufus finally ended the hug with Zeke and said, "This isn't the time for this. Let's quickly go to the castle. We must properly treat the benefactor of our clan." Then, another elder next to him shouted with joy, "That horrible herb soup is finally over. Damn it, we ate that stuff for 50 years because of that damn curse." Felix, who was behind them, breathed a sigh of relief at those words, so it wasn't just me who found that soup strange. Thus, Zeke and Felix headed to the castle with the elders of the Agamemnon clan. The atmosphere of the castle had completely changed. The cramped and old castle now had wide corridors decorated with elegant ornaments. Felix's jaw dropped as he looked at the castle. "And no way, Master, how could the castle? In just one night?" He couldn't believe he was witnessing a legendary situation where the castle regained its original beauty after the curse was lifted. Unlike Felix, who was amazed as he looked around the castle, Zeke recalled the message window that had appeared earlier. It definitely said emergency defense mode deactivated. It seemed that, like the Dragon Slayer's Sanctuary and Kaiser's Sanctuary, it could use various functions by linking with the system. Zeke thought that the ability of his system was related to the Elder Dragon artifact he had discovered before he died in his past life. Could Kane's Hersian and this mask also be related to the Elder Dragon? Lost in thought, Zeke arrived at the place where they had eaten the soup yesterday. Like other parts of the castle, the dining hall was completely different from yesterday. Beautiful stained glass adorned the walls, and bright sunlight streamed through the windows, giving the entire dining hall a refreshing atmosphere. As Zeke, Felix, and the elders took their seats, the maids brought in the food. Young Master Zeke with black eyes. We have put our skills to use for the first time in 50 years for the savior of the clan. It wasn't the hunched old woman from before, but a gentle-looking lady in a neat maid uniform speaking in an elegant voice. Felix was surprised again. Is that the same person from yesterday? Hee hee. Of course. The headmaid said playfully and began serving the food. Their bodies had been collapsing due to the demonic corruption, but Zeke's grand purification had cleansed the demonic energy and restored their bodies to their original state this time. Instead of the thick soup, elegant aristocratic dishes filled the table. Rufus looked at the food and said, "Under the curse, we couldn't see the sunlight and couldn't even eat proper food. As a result, our conditions worsened, our tongues stiffened, and we couldn't even speak properly." The elders nodded in agreement. They were able to eat warm food for the first time in 50 years. Zeke, following etiquette, focused on eating without speaking. The elders also enjoyed the food that the headmaid had carefully prepared. After the meal, they moved to the garden to have tea. Zeke, sitting across from Rufus, took out the golden mask from his pocket. Rufus's face was filled with emotion at the sight of the mask. The golden mask of Agamemnon. I can't believe the symbol of the clan has returned. Zeke asked Rufus, "Lord, can you explain what happened?" Rufus nodded. "Yes, Zeke, you have the right to hear all the secrets of our clan." He stroked the golden mask and said, 50 years ago, a great plague swept through Mycenae. This is the first time I've heard that there was a plague 50 years ago. Rufus nodded. That's to be expected. Our clan used every means possible to prevent the plague from spreading outside of Mycenae. Back then, I was just a young man who had just come of age. Rufus looked into the distance, recalling the past. Then he continued, the elders of the clan gathered those infected with the plague and brought those who weren't into the castle, trying to thoroughly quarantine them, but the plague spread too quickly to be contained. Do you remember what kind of disease it was? Rufus nodded. It was a terrible disease. Those infected suffered from high fever and red spots on their faces, and most of them vomited blood and died within 3 days. Zeke was surprised to hear Rufus's words. Could that plague be the red flower plague? Although the time it took to die was different, the symptoms were very similar to those of the red flower plague spreading in the Alencia border region. In his past life, the red flower plague spread, and the countries of the central continent had to pay a heavy price. Fortunately, a cure was developed and the disease was contained before it spread further, but if it hadn't been, a disaster would have occurred. Rufus continued slowly, but the problem wasn't the plague. When the sun set, terrible things happened. What do you mean? Rufus's hand trembled slightly. At night, those who died from the plague rose up and started attacking the living. Zeke's expression hardened as he heard the unbelievable story. You mean they became zombies? It was different from the zombies summoned by dark mages. When the risen dead bit the living, that person also rose and attacked the living. So it was contagious, like the plague. Yes, we could only explain it as a curse on Mycenae. During the day, people died from the disease, and at night, the dead rose and attacked the living. The scene Rufus described was truly horrifying. So what happened? We completely isolated Mycenae from the outside, fortified the castle, and waited for the plague to pass with the living, but the number of dead only increased. Rufus's voice trembled slightly. Then he stroked the golden mask and said, Zeke, this mask is a sacred object passed down through our clan for generations, from the ancestors of the ancestors of the ancestors of Agamemnon. It has been passed down from the oldest ancestor. Do you know who made this mask? Rufus shook his head. That wasn't passed down. Most of the records from before the Golden Age have disappeared. Zeke was disappointed to hear Rufus's answer. He had hoped to get a clue about the Hersian. Rufus continued his story. This castle and the golden mask have been symbols of the Agamemnon clan for generations. Perhaps because of the sacred power it holds, the dead couldn't enter this place, but even holding out inside the castle had its limits. In the end, my aunt, the head of the clan at the time, made a decision. What decision? Rufus swallowed and replied, to sink the dead into the sacred lake and purify the unholy energy. The head of the clan and the elders of the clan at the time volunteered to be bait. The painting you showed me earlier was about that. Yes, with the sacrifice of the head of the clan and the elders, they succeeded in luring the dead to the lake and drowning them, but a problem arose. Zeke had a hunch the unholy energy of the dead tainted even the sacred lake. Rufus nodded. You're right, the sacred lake turned into a swamp and even the guardian deity of the lake turned into a monster due to the unholy power. Zeke understood why Noel, who was a divine beast, had turned into a monstrous beast. Rufus said with tears in his eyes. So, the head of the clan took the golden mask, which held sacred power, and jumped into the unholy lake herself to purify the unholy power, no matter how long it took. Zeke recalled the golden mask that was emitting light at the bottom of the lake. She used the golden mask's purification skill to purify the demonic energy. Even after her death, the head of the Agamemnon clan had been activating the power of the sacred object for 50 years, continuously purifying the demonic energy of the lake. But the demonic energy was too strong, overwhelming the purification and even eroding the surrounding territory. If Zeke hadn't come, the Agamemnon clan might have been completely consumed by the demonic energy, turning the land into a lifeless wasteland. Zeke looked at Rufus and said, "You spread the rumors of the curse to protect the citizens, didn't you?" Rufus nodded. "Yes, it was a measure we came up with in case any remnants of the plague remained. The curse that killed children must have also been the influence of the unholy power. That must be the case. Even our trained bodies couldn't withstand the power, so the frail children wouldn't have been able to." The truth behind the curse on the Agamemnon clan was revealed. The Agamemnon clan, who had nobly sacrificed themselves and shouldered the stigma of the curse for the sake of the people of their territory and countless others on the continent, deserved respect. Zeke was relieved that his mother's clan was such a noble one. He bowed his head to Rufus with sincerity. "I express my respect and admiration for the honorable sacrifice of the Agamemnon clan." At Zeke's sincere greeting, not only Rufus but also the other elders looked at him with warm expressions. Rufus looked at Zeke and said, "The more I see you, the more you resemble your mother." Zeke looked up at Rufus and asked, "Grandfather, I want to hear about my mother." Rufus's expression hardened. "Didn't Arthur tell you about your mother?" Zeke shook his head. "I don't even know my mother's name." Everyone in Draker was reluctant to talk about her. At those words, Rufus clenched his fists and trembled. He shouted with an angry expression, "That Arthur bastard! I should have stopped Laura from marrying him. Laura Agamemnon." Zeke learned his mother's name for the first time. He asked Rufus, "I heard that the Agamemnon clan was once the strongest of all the Draker Blood Alliance clans." Rufus scoffed. "Draker's Blood Alliance? Ha, Zeke, originally, the Draker clan was an allied clan of our Agamemnon. An allied family, not a blood alliance?" During the Holy Empire era, the Draker clan was a rural knight clan that only held power in the corner of the western continent. They wouldn't have been able to advance to the central continent with the Dragon Slayer legend without the help of the Agamemnon clan, the ruler of the central continent and a clan with a tradition that continued from the Holy Empire era. Rufus continued his explanation. Midland also originally started as a city alliance centered around Mycenae after the collapse of the Holy Empire, but Draker took advantage of Mycenae's collapse due to the plague, swallowing up Mycenae's blood alliance clans and growing in size. Rufus's voice didn't sound deceitful or boastful. Zeke, who knew the political nature of the Draker clan, which pretended to be a knight clan that only knew swords, found Rufus's words more credible. "Those Draker bastards are capable of that." Zeke asked Rufus, "My mother must have known all about the Draker clan's behavior, so why did she marry Arthur Draker and give birth to me?" Rufus let out a deep sigh. "Laura was my daughter, but she was a child I couldn't understand. As children continued to die in the clan due to the unholy power, my now-deceased wife and I had given up, but then, miraculously, Laura was born." "That's amazing. That only your mother was born and grew up unaffected by the unholy power." Rufus nodded and said, "There's a reason for that. He lowered his voice and said, "Zeke, your mother was a healer class." Chapter 73. My mother was a healer class? As Zeke expressed his surprise, Rufus nodded and said, "You might not understand what that means. The concept of classes has disappeared these days." Zeke knew what a class was through his master in his past life, but he pretended not to know. "This is the first time I've heard the term class. As a pure-blooded awakened of Draker, you must remember the blessing ceremony you received at the cradle." Of course, I could never forget it. Draker calls it a blessing ceremony, but in reality, it's just a class awakening ceremony. Most Drakers awaken to the swordsman class. Surprisingly, Rufus accurately grasped the Draker bloodlines class. Swordsman class? Are there other classes then? Of course, in ancient times, people's talents were discerned, and they were assigned classes that matched their talents, systematized to draw out higher abilities. However, with the advent of the Age of Knights, most people simply divide classes into knights and mages. Assigning and awakening classes according to talent, that's quite a rational concept. Indeed, those with talent in swords walk the path of the swordsman, those with talent in bows walk the path of the archer, and those with talent in spears walk the path of the spearman. That's the meaning of classes. Zeke nodded at Rufus's words, just thinking about how he had suffered in the swordsman clan of Draker simply because he had the talent of a healer still made him shudder. Wait, if my mother was a healer class, doesn't that mean my father knew about it too? Zeke asked Rufus, if my mother was a healer, would Arthur Draker have known about this class concept? Rufus nodded. He probably would have known. Zeke was puzzled by those words. He would have known that I had a different talent than that of a swordsman, so why did he expel me from the clan? If his mother was a healer, Arthur would have known the effects of a healer, so Zeke couldn't understand why he was neglected. Zeke asked Rufus, do you know anything about the healer class? Rufus slowly opened his mouth. I don't know much either. It's such a rare talent that there are hardly any records left, even in the inherited records. One thing is certain, though, my aunt, the previous head of the clan, also had the healer talent. As Zeke expected, the previous head of the Agamemnon clan was a healer class, considering that only the previous head of the clan, who had the power of a healer, and Zeke were able to activate the golden mask. It was highly likely that this sacred object was an artifact that could only be used by those with the healer talent. Were there many healers in the Agamemnon clan? Rufus shook his head. It was rare. Most were swordsmen with innate bravery, like me and the elders of the clan, but the position of head of the clan was traditionally held by someone with the healer talent. Then my mother could have also held the position of head of the clan. She was certainly qualified, but Laura left this castle and went to the Holy Kingdom before she even came of age. Zeke was surprised by the unexpected words. The Holy Kingdom? Why did she go there? Laura didn't tell me the details. She just left, saying that she was going to find a way to save the clan. Later, she left again, saying she was going to marry Arthur Draker. The more he heard, the more questions Zeke had about his mother. Zeke looked at the symbol on the forehead of the golden mask, similar to the Holy Kingdom's insignia, and fell into thought. Perhaps my mother went to the Holy Kingdom to investigate the healer class, to purify the demonic energy that was eroding the clan with her own power. There was only one person who knew the exact truth about this. It was his father, Arthur Draker. Would he even answer if I asked him? Circumstantially, it was as if Draker had neglected the cursed Agamemnon clan to consolidate their own power. Moreover, Arthur Draker in his past life had known Zeke's true nature but still left him alone until he was expelled from the clan. So, in his past life, the Agamemnon clan would have been completely consumed by the demonic energy and disappeared without a trace. Zeke realized that things were more complicated than he thought. There are many things I need to investigate step by step. Zeke, there's something I want to give you. Rufus unfastened the necklace he was wearing and placed it in Zeke's hand. Zeke examined the necklace Rufus gave him. The pendant attached to the necklace could be opened, and inside was an old picture of a woman. Zeke's eyes wavered as he saw the woman's face. Lord, this picture. Laura Agamemnon, your mother. Zeke had never seen his mother, not in this life or his past life. The mother in the picture was around Zeke's age, with her beautiful, silky long hair swept to the side. She was a beautiful woman with an elegant yet strong impression. Looking at the picture, Zeke asked Rufus, were my mother's eyes also black like mine? Rufus shook his head. No, Laura's eyes were a beautiful emerald green. I always thought my eyes resembled my mother's. Except for the color of your eyes, you're the spitting image of Laura. When I first saw you yesterday, I thought Laura had come back. The other elders behind him nodded in agreement. Zeke closed the locket and put the necklace around his neck. "Thank you, Lord. I will treasure it." Rufus looked at Zeke and said, after Laura left the clan, one day she returned after a long time and then she left again after saying just one thing. What did she say? "The child with black eyes will restore the clan to its original state." Zeke's expression hardened. "My mother made a prophecy?" Rufus nodded. Laura was a healer class, but she was also an irregular. She was extraordinary from a young age. In the Central Continent, irregulars weren't viewed favorably. During the Holy Empire era, there were even religious trials and witch hunts for irregulars. My mother was an irregular. Rufus held Zeke's hand and said, "More than that, you said you needed the support of the clan. What do you need support for, Zeke? You are the sole successor of this Agamemnon clan." "Phew." Zeke stood in the training hall of Agamemnon Castle holding Bahamut, adjusting his breathing and swinging his sword. Because the head of the clan had designated Zeke as the clan's successor, he decided to stay longer at the castle to handle various procedures. Since there was still time before the martial arts tournament, Zeke decided to follow the head of the clan's words, and during his stay, Zeke learned the Agamemnon clan's secret swordsmanship, the golden swordsmanship. He first familiarized himself with the sword forms by looking at the Agamemnon clan's inherited swordsmanship records. As befitting a clan with a long tradition, the Agamemnon clan had a deep history of swordsmanship. The inherited swordsmanship that direct descendants had to learn was a shield swordsmanship that used both a shield and a sword simultaneously while learning the sword forms. Zeke felt that the swordsmanship was similar to both the paladin inherited swordsmanship and the imperial swordsmanship. Could it be that all three swordsmanships have the same roots? In particular, the golden swordsmanship, Agamemnon's shield swordsmanship, was created on the premise of wearing full plate armor and wielding a large kite shield. Zeke thought he understood why the members of the Agamemnon clan were so large. He recalled something while learning the golden swordsmanship. The golden swordsmanship is a technique with a good balance of offense and defense. If I combine it with the desperation strike I learned from my former master. He couldn't use the complete desperation strike yet because his dragon-related skill, dragon language, hadn't been unlocked. Once dragon language was unlocked and he combined the golden swordsmanship with the complete desperation strike, he might be able to create a new weapon, following the elemental sword and the true dragon sword skill. After familiarizing himself with the sword forms to some extent, Zeke activated Hersian, wore it in full plate armor form, and held Gelian's shield and Bahamut before displaying the Agamemnon's golden swordsmanship. Whoosh! He struck with the shield, retreated, stabbed with the sword, turned around, and swung the sword again. He used gale force to increase his agility and aura to strengthen his attacks. Weak. Even without creating an aura blade, Zeke's attacks were fast and powerful enough that ordinary knights wouldn't be able to easily withstand them. Thud. Phew! Zeke, who had removed his helmet, smiled with satisfaction at his movements. He looked down at Hersian and licked his lips. "This is really good, but I can't use it properly for fear of being tracked by those imperial bastards. If he could just change its form, he would actively use it." Zeke thought he should make time to meet Gelion in person and modify Hersian. Deciding to end his training here, he deactivated Hersian and left the training hall. When he went out to the garden, he saw the elders of Agamemnon surrounding Felix and watching his swordsmanship weak. "You shouldn't turn there. Hold your stance better. Keep your center of gravity firm." The paladin inherited swordsmanship and the Agamemnon's golden swordsmanship had many similarities, so it was clear that learning from the elders would be beneficial for Felix. However, Felix, who was actually receiving the teaching, was miserable. "Ugh, master, please save me." Felix looked at Zeke with a tearful expression, but Zeke turned his head away, ignoring the distress signal. "Work hard, Felix. It's definitely not because I'm too lazy to teach you." For the elders who had been cooped up in the castle for 50 years, Felix was a good target for their pent-up energy. Zeke left Felix to be tormented by the elders and went inside the castle. Just then, the head maid approached Zeke. "Young master, the Lord summons you." The head maid, who had lost the gloomy old woman appearance from their first meeting, became more elegant with each passing day. Although it's still a bit scary when she sometimes goes hee when she laughs. Zeke followed the headmaid's words and headed to the Lord's office. When he arrived at the office, he saw documents piled up like a mountain on Rufus's desk. With the Agamemnon clan emerging from seclusion after 50 years, there were countless matters to deal with. Grandfather. Rufus had asked Zeke to call him grandfather instead of Lord when they were alone. Rufus saw Zeke through the pile of documents and got up from his seat. Phew. It's a headache to do paperwork after such a long time. Let's go out and have some tea. As Rufus and Zeke went out to the terrace, the maids brought out tea. Zeke asked Rufus, "Then how have you been managing the city all this time?" Rufus stroked his neatly trimmed beard and said, "We entrusted it to agents outside the territory and sent important decisions by letter." So there were agents. Rufus put down his teacup and said, "Actually, that's why I called you." He looked at Zeke and said, "The Agamemnon clan has protected this place for a long time as the guardians of Mycenae. At the same time, 3 clans have helped us manage Mycenae and the surrounding territories." "You mean vassals?" "Zeke, to become the official successor of Agamemnon, you need to be recognized by them. It was a kind of safety device to prevent the person in power from becoming a dictator." Zeke nodded at Rufus's words. "That's good timing, actually. There was something I wanted to ask you, grandfather." "What is it? Tell me anything." Zeke's eyes flashed at Rufus's words. "I would like you to invite the heads and lords of those 3 vassal clans, as well as all the clans related to Agamemnon, to the castle." Chapter 74. Thud, 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 thud. Dozens of carriages entered the peaceful city of Mycenae. They were all extraordinary carriages bearing clan crests. The citizens of Mycenae murmured as they watched the carriages heading towards Agamemnon Castle. "Huh? Could the rumors be true? Is the curse on the castle really lifted? Otherwise, why would those clans suddenly gather in one place?" The citizens recalled the divine golden wave that engulfed Agamemnon Castle a few weeks ago. The eerie and gloomy hill was now covered in beautiful roses, thanks to this. The rumor that the long-standing curse on the Agamemnon clan had finally been lifted was spreading among the citizens, of course. The rumors Zeke spread through the syndicate also played a role in the rapid dissemination. And with the lords' carriages flocking to the castle, the rumor gained even more credibility. Agamemnon Castle, having regained its original appearance, was elegant and graceful. With the return of the servants who had left long ago, as well as their descendants, the castle quickly regained its former glory. The lords of the Agamemnon Blood Alliance clans and the surrounding territories were surprised to see Agamemnon Castle restored to its original state. Some shed tears of emotion, while others, whose generations had changed, showed no particular reaction, but most of them shared one common thought. "Is the clan curse really lifted?" The lords whispered among themselves. It was hard to believe at first that the Agamemnon clan, who had locked themselves in the castle for 50 years and prevented anyone from approaching, suddenly summoned all the Blood Alliance clans. Some of the bewildered lords had grim expressions, unsure of what was happening. Some clans had prospered due to the benefits gained from the Agamemnon clan's complete withdrawal from external activities due to the curse, and they were afraid of losing their vested interests. The banquet hall was filled with a strange atmosphere, with those who genuinely welcomed the return of the Agamemnon clan and those who didn't mingling together. It was then fanfare. A lively fanfare sounded, and Rufus Agamemnon, the host of the banquet, appeared. The lords were surprised to see Rufus Agamemnon, who had regained his original appearance after the curse was lifted. Rufus, with his sturdy physique and tall stature, looked very impressive in traditional aristocratic attire. The lords flocked to Rufus. Through Rufus, everyone realized that the curse on the Agamemnon clan had been lifted. The only thing left was to decide what attitude to take. "Oh my God, Lord, to see you return so healthy. I can't believe it." Whether they truly felt that way or not, most of the Blood Alliance clans tried to win Rufus's favor with exaggerated words and gestures. It was a glimpse of the potential of the great clan that once stood at the center of Midland. The lords all approached Rufus and kissed the back of his hand. Rufus naturally accepted their kisses with an aristocratic posture and restrained movements. When everyone had finished kissing his hand, Rufus opened his mouth to address them. "I express my gratitude to the Blood Alliance clans who have filled the void left by the Agamemnon clan for so long." Those who had other thoughts in mind flinched at Rufus's resounding voice. Is the ruler of the central continent being resurrected? Just as those gathered in the banquet hall were gulping nervously, Rufus spoke again. The reason I invited you all here today is to announce that the curse on the Agamemnon clan has ended. As soon as he said those words, expressions of emotion and sighs of relief came from the lords. At the same time, Rufus continued, "Furthermore, today, the Agamemnon clan will introduce the official successor of the clan to the blood alliances gathered here." At the mention of the official successor of the clan, the lords began to murmur amongst themselves again. The return of the Agamemnon clan and the designation of an official successor were matters of completely different levels. Even if they were once the rulers of the continent, they had been a clan practically sealed off for 50 years. It would inevitably take time for them to regain their power, but to suddenly have a successor. The lords waited nervously for Rufus's next words. Then Rufus clapped his hands. The fanfare sounded again, and someone walked into the banquet hall. Thump, Zeke, dressed in the official Agamemnon clan attire, appeared. Zeke, who had grown considerably since turning 17, looked no different from an adult on the outside. Just then, one of the lords shouted at the sight of Zeke, "Zeke Draker!" It was the noble who had attended Zeke's promotion party. As Zeke Draker's name was mentioned, the lords murmured, "Zeke Draker? Is he the youngest blue-rank knight on the continent? Is he the genius who recently graduated from Valhalla at the youngest age?" As the banquet hall became noisy, Rufus raised his hand to calm everyone down. After everyone fell silent, they looked at Zeke standing on the platform. Zeke opened his mouth. "My name is Zeke Draker, as a direct descendant of the Agamemnon clan. I am qualified to be the official successor." Sighs of admiration were heard once again at Zeke's words. A direct descendant of the Agamemnon clan and a pure-blooded awakened of the Draker clan. On top of that, he held the titles of the youngest blue-rank knight on the continent and the youngest Valhalla graduate. If Zeke Draker was the successor of the Agamemnon clan, which had lost its power, it would only be a matter of time before they regained their lost power and status. Just then, someone raised their hand. Rufus's eyes flashed. It was the Achilles clan, one of the oldest vassal clans of the Agamemnon clan. They were his most reliable friends and sometimes his most formidable enemies. The head of the Achilles clan said to Rufus, "Respected Rufus Agamemnon, as your longtime friend and loyal vassal, may I have a word?" "My oldest friend, Arnold Achilles, your advice always brightens my ears. Speak." Arnold Achilles stepped forward in front of the others. He pointed at Zeke and said, "It is a joyous occasion that the official successor of the Agamemnon clan has been decided. However, according to the law of representatives, the Achilles clan has a duty to verify the qualifications of the Agamemnon clan's successor." Then the heads of the other two clans stepped forward and stood beside him, saying, "The Hector clan is of the same mind. The Aegis clan also wishes to fulfill its duty." Rufus nodded after hearing the words of the three clans. "I fully understand your duty and right as my longtime friends and loyal vassals. Very well. How will you verify the successor's qualifications?" Arnold Achilles stepped forward as their representative and said, "We will follow the old tradition." The old tradition they were referring to meant a knightly duel. A knightly duel was a duel passed down from the Holy Empire era where the participants wore full-plate armor and fought with shields and swords to determine the victor. Rufus then said to Arnold, "Very well. According to your will, we shall verify the successor's qualifications through a knightly duel." At the mention of a knightly duel, the faces of the other lords were filled with anticipation and excitement. Rufus declared, "The champions of the three clans participating in the knightly duel shall prepare themselves and gather at the dueling grounds in 1 hour." As soon as he finished speaking, the entire banquet hall was filled with cheers. Exactly 1 hour later, people flocked to the dueling grounds prepared in Agamemnon Castle. The champions prepared by the Achilles, Hector, and Aegis clans entered the dueling grounds, wearing full-plate armor and equipped with kite shields. Rufus had informed the three clans about the successor beforehand, so they had prepared for the knightly duel in advance. Those who appeared in the dueling grounds were official knights of each clan, familiar with knightly duel-style combat. Each of the three clans brought champions who were skilled in knightly duels and could represent their clans. This was to break the spirit of the young successor, Zeke, from the start. Finally, Zeke appeared in the dueling grounds. Thump, Thump, Zeke arrived, equipped with full plate armor and a kite shield prepared by the Agamemnon clan, not the Hersian. Seeing Zeke, the champion of the Hector clan said, "Will that sword be all right?" He was giving Zeke a piece of advice, seeing the claymore-shaped behemoth which was longer than ordinary swords. Instead of answering verbally, Zeke responded by closing his helmet visor. The first duel began immediately. The first to face Zeke was the champion of the Hector clan. As if familiar with knightly duels, the Hector champion showed off, turning his sword this way and that for the spectators. The lords and heads of clans in the audience cheered. On the other hand, Zeke simply held his shield forward, minimizing his exposed area, and calmly prepared for the duel with his sword at the ready. The champion of the Hector clan gestured towards Zeke. "Successor of Agamemnon, show me everything you've got." He spread his arms wide, provoking Zeke. It was then kakakakwa. Zeke quickly charged towards the Hector champion, and with his heavy shield carrying momentum, he struck the Hector champion's full-plate armor head-on. Bang. With a tremendous sound, the Hector champion was sent flying with a single blow. The nobles, who had been cheering, couldn't grasp what had just happened. They stared blankly at the Hector champion, crumpled against a wall. The Hector champion, seemingly unconscious from the shield charge, showed no signs of getting up. The referee, who had also been gaping, finally came to his senses. Zeke Draker wins. Despite the victory being declared, there were no cheers or applause from the audience. Still in shock, ahem, ahem. The head of the Hector clan, embarrassed by the completely unexpected result, just coughed awkwardly. Amidst the shock, the second duel began immediately. This time, it was the champion of the Aegis clan who stepped forward. He was determined not to be careless like the Hector champion and to take the duel seriously. He slowly approached Zeke with his shield and sword. It was then whoosh. Zeke's sword struck the champion's shield. Bang. Despite raising his shield, the Aegis champion couldn't withstand the tremendous force and lost his balance. Ugh! He hurriedly regained his balance and stood firm. But Zeke didn't give him a chance. Bang! The heavy kite shield struck the champion's side. The Aegis champion was sent flying. Crash! Wearing heavy full-plate armor that was difficult to put on and take off. It wasn't easy to maintain composure once balance was lost. The Aegis champion, however, was a veteran knight with a lot of experience in knightly duels, so he immediately got up. Phew. He was gradually being overwhelmed by the pressure emanating from Zeke. Is this really the spirit of a 17-year-old? He had heard that Zeke was the youngest to be promoted to Blue Rank Knight, but he thought Zeke would be a young and inexperienced boy. But facing him in person, Zeke showed no openings. Like a seasoned veteran, Zeke moved again, stepping with the illusion step. Despite wearing heavy armor and carrying a kite shield, his movements were agile, as if he was wearing light armor. Ugh! The Aegis champion couldn't keep up with Zeke's swift movements. Zeke engaged in a back-and-forth exchange with the Aegis champion using the golden swordsmanship, the Agamemnon's shield swordsmanship. I'm finally getting used to the armor. He had intended to engage in a proper exchange in the first duel as well, but he hadn't been able to control his strength properly due to the unfamiliar armor and shield. So he ended up sending his opponent flying with a single blow. Zeke moderately controlled his strength, parrying the Aegis champion's attacks and exploiting his openings. His excellent senses from the heavenly body and bones physique were displayed to their fullest, showing agile movements even in close-quarters combat. Ooh! The spectators cheered at Zeke's almost magical movements. Zeke felt the time to end the duel approaching weak. Zeke took the stance of the Agamemnon golden swordsmanship, shifting his center of gravity backward. Then, he swung his shield to break his opponent's balance. Ugh! The Aegis champion's center was wide open. Zeke thrust his sword, bang. Just like the Hector champion, the Aegis champion was also sent flying. This time, unlike before, cheers and applause erupted, and the champion of the Achilles clan, the last in line, entered the dueling grounds. Chapter 75. The champion of the Achilles clan announced his name as he stepped into the dueling grounds. Feral Achilles. Zeke also stated his name in response. Zeke Draker. Stating one's name before a duel was an act of respect and courtesy towards the opponent. Zeke felt a different aura from the Achilles champion compared to the previous two. His spirit is unwavering. It meant he had deep mental discipline. Zeke slowly approached Farrell with his shield and sword raised. Then, Farrell charged forward first. Whoosh! The giant shield slammed into Zeke's front. The heavy shield attack shook Zeke's body. Bang! Zeke angled his shield to deflect Farrell's attack and lessen the impact. Nevertheless, a considerable shock penetrated through. As he had sensed earlier, Zeke realized that Farrell was a formidable opponent. Farrell didn't miss the opening. He circled to the side and swung his sword towards Zeke's waist. Whoosh! The sword cut through the air and flew towards him. Clang! Zeke parried Farrell's sword with Bahamut. Farrell frowned as his sword was deflected by Zeke's strike. The tremendous rebounding force made his wrist ache. Farrell admired Zeke's swordsmanship. His basics are solid and he has a wealth of practical experience. Zeke maintained his balance against any attack, defending firmly, and when an opening appeared, he counterattacked with the most appropriate sword path. Zeke and Farrell engaged in close quarters combat, their bodies almost touching. Clang! Clank! Whoosh! Their shields clashed, they dodged, and their swords met in a tense back-and-forth exchange. The lords and heads of clans, witnessing the unexpectedly high level of the nightly duel, gaped in awe. Oh my god! There's actually a knight who can fight Farrell Achilles on equal footing. The undefeated Farrell Achilles has finally met his match. Farrell Achilles was the champion of the Central Region Nightly Duel League, holding an undefeated record. As a direct descendant of the Achilles clan and a champion representing the clan, he had greatly contributed to raising the clan's honor and achievements. Whoosh! As people were expressing their admiration, Farrell's sword narrowly grazed Zeke. Zeke stepped back half a step, then accelerated forward, deflecting Farrell's sword with his shield, and spun around, swinging his sword. Quack-wah-bang! A sound like an explosion came from Farrell's shield. At the same time, Farrell's body shook violently. Huff, huff. Rough breathing could be heard from inside his helmet. On the other hand, Zeke's movements were no different from the beginning. Farrell couldn't deny that Zeke was physically superior to him. What a monster! He decided to stake everything on one final blow. Whoosh! Farrell stepped forward with his left foot. All his strength was concentrated in his foot. Bang! With tremendous jumping power, Farrell's body shot forward like a projectile, a ultimate move that pierces the enemy with a firmly held sword while using the shield to cover the body. Achilles-style shield spear technique, ultimate charge skill. Black Spear's fury. It was as if Farrell's body itself had transformed into a giant black spear. Zeke, aiming his sword at Farrell, who had transformed into a spear that could pierce anything, also used his ultimate move, Agamemnon Golden Swordsmanship Ultimate. Counter-skill Golden Sword's Majesty. Zeke thrust his shield forward and raised his sword above his head. At the same time, he met Farrell's ultimate move with his shield. Crack! Black Spear's fury completely shattered Zeke's shield. Zeke spun around and brought down the sword he had raised above his head towards Farrell. Farrell also raised the shield he had been holding close to his body to block Zeke's golden sword. Crack! Farrell's shield was also completely shattered by Zeke's sword strike. Quack-wah-bang! With a tremendous roar, both of them were thrown back simultaneously. Thud! The two of them stood facing each other in the middle of the arena, their swords pointed at each other. Their shields were both shattered. It was then, stop. Rufus stood up and stopped the match. He said to the lords and heads of clans, I declare this match a draw. It seems meaningless to decide a winner and loser in such a magnificent match. Those who had been watching the match stood up at Rufus's words and they sent a tremendous wave of cheers and applause. Farrell! Farrell! Zeke! Zeke! They chanted the names of the two, praising the excellent skills shown in the match. Zeke and Farrell took off their helmets and approached each other. That was a great match, Sir Farrell. Farrell took Zeke's hand and said, I admit defeat, Sir Zeke, thank you for your consideration. Farrell had sensed that Zeke had pulled back his strength at the last clash, destroying only his shield while dodging his attack and counterattacking. And that was the truth. Zeke felt that there was no need to inflict defeat on an excellent knight like Farrell in a setting that was closer to a friendly match than an official one. Farrell was greatly impressed to see that Zeke, despite his young age, possessed such generosity and broad-mindedness. At the same time, the heads of the three clans sitting in the audience stood up. The Aegis clan acknowledges Sir Zeke Draco's qualifications as successor. The Hector clan also acknowledges Sir Zeke Draco's qualifications. Finally, the head of the Achilles clan spoke. The Achilles clan also acknowledges Sir Zeke Draker's qualifications as successor. The three clans unanimously acknowledged Zeke's qualifications. Zeke had now officially qualified as the successor of the Agamemnon clan. Blessings to the new successor of the Agamemnon clan. The arena was filled with excitement and cheers. Phew, I'm tired. After the match, Zeke was finally able to take off his armor and rest. Felix brought him a cold drink. He was also incredibly excited. Master, that was an amazing match. I didn't know you had learned traditional duels. Oh my god, a draw with the league champion. Zeke said to Felix, don't make a fuss. Sir Feral Achilles is a famous champion that even I know. He has a lot of fans in Atlas too. Sir Feral went easy on me to save face. Besides, the Achilles clan is famous for spears, not swords. Spears? But Sir Feral only used a sword in every match. That's why he's a great knight. Learn from him, Felix. Don't just think about running away every time the elders try to train you. I'll run away, what are you talking about? Stop talking nonsense and go make me some tea. Felix grumbled and brought the tea, but he was scolded by Zeke again because the water temperature wasn't right. At first, I thought he was quite quick-witted, but he's becoming more and more cunning. At least I know that Felix isn't a spy. While Zeke was drinking the bad tea that Felix had made, one of the attendants approached him. Young master, Sir Feral of the Achilles clan has requested to see you. Feral Achilles, who had just had a match with him, had come to see him. Sir Feral? Show him to the reception room right away. Zeke changed back into his formal attire and headed to the reception room. Feral, dressed in a Central Region aristocratic outfit instead of his armor, sat with a composed posture. He was a handsome man with a strong jawline and thick sideburns. He greeted Zeke with a polite bow. Sir Zeke, I apologize for my boldness in requesting a meeting like this. Zeke looked at Feral and said, it is an honor to have such an excellent knight as Sir Feral visit me. Please, have a seat. A maid soon brought in tea. Feral spoke first. Sir Zeke, I learned a great deal from today's nightly duel. As do I. Feral said in a solemn voice, I have a request. Please tell me what it is. I will grant you anything I can. Although I am lacking, please allow me to assist you. Zeke was surprised by those words. What do you mean, Sir Feral? Feral's eyes gleamed as he said, I heard that you will be participating in the Draker martial arts tournament soon. As expected, news traveled fast in Midland. Zeke nodded. That's correct. I thought it was simply a competition of skills, but I heard it's not. Feral nodded. You're right, Sir Zeke. The Draker martial arts tournament is practically a battlefield. My master, Duke, also described it that way. He said it would be difficult without a supporting clan, but I didn't hear the details. May I ask why? Feral answered Zeke's question. The Draker martial arts tournament is quite unique. The events and rules change every time. The events and rules change? Yes, it is the tournament preparation committee that decides them, and the committee is made up of preparation members. These members also change every time, and most of them are elders from influential families in the central continent. Zeke's expression changed at those words. So you're saying that those elders become members and decide the events and rules? That's correct. It will soon be announced what events will be held for the preliminaries and finals. And from the round of 16, the events and rules will be announced the day before the match. Then, if those members support a specific candidate, they could set events and rules that are advantageous to that candidate. That's right, for those with similar skills, the more advantageous the event is to them, the higher their chances of winning. In an extreme case, if a rule is set that aura cannot be used in this martial arts tournament, then it has to proceed that way. What kind of tournament is this? In his previous life, he was expelled from the Draca clan and didn't even qualify to participate in the tournament, so he didn't know such an absurd competition existed. Zeke finally understood why Duke had said it would be difficult to win the tournament without a supporting clan. If they collude with each other and set the events and rules to check the winning candidates, I could even be eliminated in the preliminaries. Feral said to Zeke in an earnest voice, Sir Zeke, if you'll allow me, I will assist you in preparing for the tournament by your side. Zeke was surprised by those words. Are you saying you'll be my assistant, Sir Feral? Feral nodded with a determined expression. Wait, why is he suddenly acting like this? Zeke, who had suffered and been betrayed by others in his past life, was always suspicious when someone showed him kindness. He looked into Feral's steadfast eyes. It's a bit burdensome, but it would certainly be advantageous to have a famous knight like Feral help me. Zeke nodded towards Feral. It would be an infinite honor to have an honorable knight like Sir Feral assist me. Farrell's face brightened at Zeke's words. As soon as he received permission, Farrell began taking out what he had prepared, a tremendous amount of documents piled up on the table. "What is this, Sir Farrell?" "It's the basic manual for the Draker Martial Arts Tournament. The in-depth strategy guide is at my clan home, so I'll have my attendants bring it over soon." He had never heard of a manual, let alone a strategy guide, for the tournament. Maybe I shouldn't have entered the tournament. Zeke thought that if he had known about this, it would have been better to refuse, even if it meant getting on Arthur Draco's bad side. Just then, Farrell said to Zeke in a serious tone, "Sir Zeke, to be honest, it's quite late to start preparing for the tournament with only a month left. Usually, preparations begin 2 years, or at the earliest, 3 years in advance." "Is that so?" Farrell nodded. "In this situation, the most necessary thing is a broker." "A broker? Do you mean a broker in the sense that I know?" "Yes, or more elegantly, a lobbyist." Broker or lobbyist, it was all the same. Farrell took out a file from the pile of manuals and opened it. On the page was a person's profile. "It is said that no debutante in the Central region makes their debut without going through this person. She has a firm grip on the central social circles." Zeke checked the photo in the profile and read the name, Catherine Graham, the mistress of the Graham Dukedom. Farrell said to Zeke, "To prepare for the martial arts tournament, we must bring Duchess Catherine to our side.